You're watching the LeanScaper podcast, where landscapers come to grow. If you want the systems, stories, and strategies to build a lean, mission-driven company that your team loves working for, keep watching.
All right. Well, thank you all. I really appreciate you being here. We are super excited to launch this AI platform. This has been 35 years in the making. Throughout my career, I think I hit just about every bump in the road. I started a landscape company with a grade 12 education, a pickup truck, and a wheelbarrow. There was a lot of pain and suffering on that journey. A few short years later, I had a $5 million business that I didn't know how to run. It had outgrown me very quickly. I didn't understand the finances, I didn't understand the operations, and I sure as heck didn't understand people. I felt completely overwhelmed. I think our industry feels that way. I think over the years, there's been a lot of talk about scale and a lot of talk about growing. And when we do this, we constantly talk about growing revenues, growing profits. But somehow we've forgotten along the way to solve the industry's biggest problem. For many years, operating LMN, we would poll our customers each year, and every year I would see the same response. The number one problem that our customers were facing in this industry was the lack of people, the lack of skills, the lack of access to people, and a constant struggle to grow people while maintaining a transparent work environment. Now, we didn't just build AI because it's trendy, and we didn't build AI because it's this new thing to sell. In fact, quite the opposite. At this stage of life, I don't really work for money anymore. I work for purpose. My son and I, we started a landscape company together. It's his, completely his. He made a decision. He had a choice to spend his $400,000 college fund on college or to start a landscape company. Now, I certainly didn't come up with that choice. This is one he came up with on his own. And the first thing that his mother and I said when we found out was that it was probably not a good idea. After all, this is the same business that tore our marriage apart and destroyed me temporarily. I suffered from burnout in 2016, from growing a company far too fast and working far too hard doing it. So as he set out to build this business, I thought to myself, I can't possibly let him walk into that burning building. And I don't want to start a landscape business and work in it every day like I did 35 years ago. How am I going to help? And in that moment, something occurred to me. What I build for him, I have to build for everyone. Throughout my career, I learned how to manage safety and job costing and scheduling, fleet management. I learned how to understand people and how to grow people and create career development plans. I learned how to run projects more effectively using project management software. I learned many things. And along the way, I realized that I always had to replace myself in order to keep scaling the business. Now I've invested millions in personal development and coaching over the years, and I think I grew a great deal for it. But ultimately, when it came time to thinking of my son entering this industry and having to learn all of that the hard way, this different purpose sort of came over me. And I got thinking about it. I thought, well, there's great software products out there today, many, and they do many great things and they help people in many, many ways. And I thought, well, if we deploy all of these software products properly from day one and I teach him how to avoid some of the mistakes that I made, business should be better, should be a little bit easier. Maybe he won't implode. But the maybe was still there. And the truth is, all of the opportunity for growth in this industry, it sits between the metrics. It's not the stuff that shows up on the spreadsheets. It's not the stuff that sits in dashboards. The true opportunity in this industry happens in day-to-day conversations. It's when your frontline crew managers are giving direction, when they're teaching people on the job, when they're having meetings and they're talking about what good looks like, and they're talking about how to make things better. Continuous improvement happens in between the metrics. Now, we all know that there's been a huge interest in this industry from the investment world, and it's changed this industry, and we all know it. Not for the worse, not for the better, it's just changed it. Sometimes I can be a little hard on the investment community on social media, but I'll say this: the investment community has not hurt this industry. The founders have. It's up to us to level up the industry. The reason that we have a lack of workforce is because we don't pay enough money. We don't create career paths. We don't create futures. We don't create middle-class lifestyles for our employees. And that has to change. And so as I set out on this project, I got thinking, all of this stuff exists. And the last thing I want to do is go build something that's just a little bit better than everybody else's thing. That's just not going to change anything in my mind. I need to do something different. Now, as I said earlier, everything happens in between the data. It happens in between the apps and in between the software and in between the tech products that we have. It happens in between people. It's those learning opportunities. It's learning to listen when people are talking, to take that information and assimilate it into improvement strategies that actually move the needle. Now, as I said, the investment community changed the industry. And what I mean by that is we started to change what we value. We started to look at EBITDA. Well, I can tell you 25 years ago when I was sitting in a workshop with Charles Vanderkoy, he wasn't talking about EBITDA. He was talking about value. He was talking about building people that knew how to do the work properly, about saying what you do and doing what you say. But somehow we've gotten to this point where we talk about how much of your revenue is recurring, what your EBITDA looks like, what your gross profit looks like. That's how we value companies. I think that's bullshit. We should value the people behind those logos. We should value the people in those companies. The true value of a company lies in the skills and the systems within a company, and the people and the culture that run those skills, repeat those skills, develop those skills in others. Stripping down costs to get to a better EBITDA number without focusing on building people, well, that's just stupid. And that's what's happening. It doesn't need to be that way. Now, clearly I've built some software before, and I'm a huge believer in software. And I'm a huge believer in LMN, the new CEO, and the mission that they're on. Why? Because we share that mission. Now, traditional software, we all know it waits for input. The limiting factor is the human running it. No different than a tractor, a truck, or any other piece of equipment that we own. It waits to be utilized. We all know it. We complain about it. We try to train people to it. But I don't think we do a great job at that as an industry either. Now, what's happened over the past 20 years is there's been a lot of great tools developed by a lot of great innovative people. And there's lots of solutions that solve individual problems. And there's incredible systems of record like LMN and others that help manage the business and surface important insights to help you put up some guardrails and kind of stay out of the ditches. And these tools are here to stay. They'll be here forever. These legacy products have brought an incredible amount of value and change to the industry, and they're not going anywhere. With all these separate tools, we end up with separate dashboards, and we end up with disconnected information. And we make decisions based on the data that's in front of us. Now, this concept of making decisions on data, this kind of came into this industry at scale, I would say, over the past 20 years. And all of that investor interest has only hyper focused the attention on these metrics. But these metrics are not the be all and end all of business. When I built my top $150 million business and went from 5 to 50 million in 10 short years, I can tell you this: it wasn't the data, it was the people. It was continuous improvement, and it had nothing to do with me. When I learned that the limiting factor in my business was me, and that everything that was happening in the business was nothing more than a reflection of my leadership, I started to step out of the way, and I started to see something magical. When you enable people to do great work, they miraculously do excellent work, day in and day out. I don't think I've built much in my life. In fact, all I really think I'm good at is setting a vision. I'm not much good at operating. I'm not particularly good with finances. I'm not particularly good with building technology, but I'm really good at figuring out what we need to build. When my son decided to get into business, I thought to myself, hey, how do I make this information that is invisible become the most powerful tool in the business? Because as CEO over the years, and I'll be honest, I've always struggled with that title. In fact, I couldn't give myself that title. Abby gave me that title. I think she's sitting back there in the middle. And when she gave me that title, I was pretty uncomfortable with it. And I still don't think I'm much good as a CEO. And that's why Mike's the CEO of LeanScaper. I think he'll be a lot better at that job than me. But as my son got into this position, I thought, man, I'm going to push him into becoming a CEO. I don't know if I want him to do that. That's the hardest job on earth. I got to make it easier. And so over the years, all these great people that built my companies, the one thing that I tried to pay attention to is what they were saying, not the data. My partners cared about that. Now, I was partners with one of the largest companies in the world, a publicly held company. So that means I was a CEO under a public company. That's a difficult job. Then I had private equity partners. That's a really difficult job. But I'll say this: it's the ability to listen to what's happening in between the bubbles, seeing what other people don't see. And you'll never see it on your own, and the data will never tell you that. It's everybody in your company that knows. And so building software that listens, software that runs the business, seemed impossible to me. So I decided I'm not going to build software. I'm going to build an AI database. You see, this isn't software. This is something entirely different. This is a database that listens, that prompts, that unifies every department, every piece of software you currently use. This is not a rip and replace. This is taking all that information that sits in every conversation and empowering the leader and the leaders and everyone in the company to access that information in real time. So all the communication problems that we have in this business, running jobs all over the cities and markets and states that you serve, well, we need to figure out a way to make that communication disruption become a thing of the past. And so what we decided to build was just that, something that sits alongside everyone in the company, from the CEO right down to the front line, so that when questions are asked, everyone in the company can answer that question the same way as the visionary, the same way as the operator, the same way as the head of sales, the head of marketing, the head of people, because I don't think it's right for people to feel too small to know all of the information that's held in the business. I think everybody in the business needs that level of transparency, because I believe that everybody in the world gets out of bed each day and they go to work for themselves. They don't go to work for you. They don't go to work for anyone but themselves. And we all know this to be true. Whether you started the business or you work in the company that you're with, you know it. You get out of bed each day and you go to work to provide for yourself and your families. And that holds true for everyone in your company. Now, I believe that we're nearing the end of the hourly worker era. And many people may not see it yet, but that's what's coming. And that's good for everyone in this room, whether you own the company or whether you work in one. Because if we want to unlock the true potential in people, then we have to remove the glass ceiling. We have to make it possible for other people to be better, to get better, to improve, to grow, to be proud of themselves, for people to be able to go home at the end of the day with pride in what they've achieved, knowing what good looks like and knowing exactly how they're doing. Not just knowing how they're doing, but knowing what they need to do to improve. Because that's where hope lies. And in this industry, we need to put that hope back into the hands of the people doing the work. And we all know it. You see, when people give up, when they don't see a path forward, when they don't believe that there's more, apathy sets in. Boredom. We've got a whole industry filled with frontline workers that feel that way. And if you don't believe it, your head's in the sand. LeanScaper will sit right in the center of your business. It will become the control tower, the central nervous system. It knows everything. You don't need to replace anything. You don't need to tear out your software. You don't need to change anything that you're using. All those products hold value. But we all know that as you scale a business, operations and finance and people and customers, these things get really hard to manage. So we start hiring senior leaders. We start hiring managers. We start hiring C-levels eventually to run operations and finance and customer and people. Now, if you're like me with my grade 12 education, I'm not an expert in any one of these 4 areas. It took me a long time to even say that I'm good in these areas, let alone excellent. And so there lies the problem. While trying to scale a business and trying to understand all of these roles and understand them well enough to hire people, systemize these types of areas of the business, it feels impossible. Because it just about is. And in 2016, when I finally cracked after 20 years of building, I knew why. I knew exactly why. I had taken on more than I could actually take on. Now, what Lana is that's that voice that's in your head, except it's filled with clarity. Lana knows what's happening because Lana runs every meeting. Doesn't just listen. Lana runs meetings. Lana runs the morning rollout. Lana runs the mid-morning meeting. The meeting that's happening while your crew is driving from site to site in the truck. Listening, capturing, collecting feedback. All of the stuff that you need to fix is right in front of you, and your employees know exactly what it is. But they don't have a voice. Maybe they speak a different language. Maybe you just never see them because you're sitting off in the ivory tower. But at the end of the day, I know you want to hear what they're saying. Lana can listen in any language, have conversations with your staff in any language, and be the brain that you wish you had. You see, I suffered from burnout because I put too much into my brain, far too much, and got to the point where I couldn't see everything that I'd put there. This brain does need to exist in a company, and I'll tell you, this is the founder fatigue that we all know and love. Founders are pretty special people. Oftentimes they're misunderstood, maybe seen as looking to make more money than everybody else, which is rarely actually the case. I've gotten to know a lot of founders over the past 25 years. I've gone from city to city to city with rooms of 50 contractors since the early 2000s. And I can tell you, I haven't met too many greedy founders. Most are purpose-driven. Most care more about their people than they do about themselves. And most are completely overwhelmed. Lana's just there to help. Not another dashboard, not another software product. As I said, there's plenty of great ones out there. She's a deployment manager. She's a coach. She's an assistant, all rolled into one. She's there to take what's out of your head and put it into reality. At every point that it's ever needed, that advice is there waiting. Whether it's a frontline crew member showing up to wire up an irrigation system, never done it before, somebody going to install a pool, somebody going to install a patio, somebody trying to order their material, somebody trying to understand what's wrong with their truck. Lana knows it all. She remembers everything that happens in the company. And what she does with that information is special. She'll take the data from all the important data sources, your legacy software products, your system of record. She'll utilize that information and overlay that with the conversations that are happening in your company. So when we want to understand why Jose's crew is so much faster than Tony's crew, and we ask Lana, she doesn't just tell us their estimated versus actual hours. She explains exactly why Tony's crew's faster. Because they talk about material 4 times a day, while the other crews don't. They plan and they execute very differently, and what they do is what good looks like. And so she learns. And then she prompts you to update the standard operating procedures and change the meeting flows so that everybody in the company operates the same way as your best crew. And she runs every meeting, prompting and having conversations with your team. All the conversations you want your frontline staff to have, all the conversations you train your field crew foreman to have. But let's be honest, it's impossible for these people to actually do what we ask them to do. The list of jobs for a frontline crew manager is absolutely ridiculous. So what we do is we hire more middle managers. And before you know it, we've got so many middle managers that we can't pay our staff fair wages. So we get this us and them mentality. Now, if we took away the middle managers and just enabled the frontline staff to understand what good looks like, to understand how to improve, and if we had conversations with them every single day, multiple times per day, that we're not just coaching them up, but also letting them know exactly what they need to do next. We systemize our businesses. Now, traditionally, people did this with SOPs. And SOPs are great, but we all know where SOPs end up: on the shelf, in the graveyard. And we'll update them next year when we reopen that binder and realize they weren't that good. I think SOPs need to be living, breathing documents. Yes, we have to create a document to start, but that's a hard task. Now, I remember trying to sit down and write SOPs. I have the attention span of a snail. I didn't enjoy writing SOPs. But now I can write 100 of them in 10 minutes, and they're better than anything I would have ever come up with. Now, the best part about these SOPs, and the reason they're so important as you step into the AI age, the SOPs train your agents. What's happened here is we've stepped into the Agentic age. And if you don't know what that means, you should write that down, because it's going to change everything. Lana doesn't run on broken reports. She runs on conversations. She doesn't rely on people to enter things into software. She listens. She has conversations with everyone in your company. And then she deploys agents. She deploys agents across your departments in your business. Not the way that we say how to do it at LeanScaper, the way that your SOPs say that you run your company. You see, this is not software. This is not code. There's not one way to run a business. There's millions. Lana learns how you want to run a business. She'll show you best practices, not just from the industry, but from your peers and from the large language models of the world. But ultimately, what happens with this AI is you build your vision and your goals and your scorecards, and you build your SOPs, and then Lana deploys agents across all departments to make sure that the way you say you want to run your company is the way you run it. You see, I believe that culture in a company is nothing more than the way it is. And the way it is the way the leader makes it. And if you're not proud of something in your business, then you got to face it because you made it that way. Now, the beautiful part here is we usually get so overwhelmed that we don't know what to do next. That's how I suffered burnout. I didn't know what to do next. I couldn't make a decision. There was too much information. What Lana does, she makes those decisions for you, with you, but more importantly, with everyone in your company. Every employee, every manager, every director, every VP, every C-level is making better decisions based on every conversation in the business. Not one conversation, not the loudest voice, not the pain in the ass that tells you the way it is every time or complains every time you change something, but what everyone in the company is saying. That's what Lana does. Now, most systems ignore the most valuable data in the company. As I've said, that data is really hard to measure because it's conversations. Now, what Lana does is she listens, she remembers, and she acts. She learns what people are saying. She figures out how to improve based on all of the suggestions that are coming in meetings. She makes suggestions. She'll put the new SOP in front for approval. And once it's approved, she understands it. Now, sitting right there in the middle is this LeanScaper brain. Now, we all use software for many different things: fleet management, estimating, CRMs, sales tools, job costing, accounting, photo management, human resources. The list is endless. There is so much good software out there that does very good things that we don't know how to consume all of that valuable information, all of that incredible data. But when you consume that data and you collect all of that data and you overlay it with all of these conversations, you end up with a perspective, and it can be a really rational perspective. Because AI can absorb all of that data, all of those insights, all of those conversations, and then rationally make suggestions based on the truth. And this is what I think AI has brought to this planet: a single source of truth. Now, when we connect all of these sources into one, we superpower humans. And that is what AI is here for. In the right hands, AI is going to make life better for everybody. In the wrong hands, it's going to be a tool for power. We have to put the AI in the hands of every employee in the industry so that we can unlock the true potential of these people and make lives better. That's the mission I'm on. And that's the mission I want you to join. A transformation of an industry, a movement. I'm not here to ask you for money. You can use this for free. Log in and get going. You're going to be shocked. The way it starts seems pretty easy, and it might seem a little too easy when you start, because off the start, we're not going to ask you for much, but what we are doing is training her to understand your business. The agentic age is upon us. So when you log in for the first time and you start building your mission, your vision, and entering your core values, setting your targets and SMART goals and objectives, sharing the initiatives that you're working on to improve your business, you're going to unlock something that you've never imagined. All those incredible people you couldn't afford in the past show up instantly. You can welcome your new team. Lana gets embedded right next to every role and fills those that you can't afford yet. She takes average people, just like you and I hate to burst anyone's bubble, but we're all just average people. She takes average people just like us, and creates elite results 10 times out of 10. Now, this isn't just so that you've got bigger profits and better EBITDA. This isn't so that you go sell your business for more money. But I'll tell you right now, this is going to change all of that. Those EBITDA multiples that you're facing right now when you look at investment, those are going to be revenue multiples soon. And the investors might be crossing their arms saying, bull. But mark my words, we're on the edge of something much, much bigger than I think most people are seeing in this industry. Tech-enabled service companies are here to stay. The 40% waste that exists in your business right now, it could be more, that's gone once these agents are deployed. Ordinary people producing elite results. Not working harder. In fact, I think working a lot less, but working intelligently. This AI will run the robots, it will run the humans, and it'll run every aspect of the business. You see, when you've got operations managers and outbound sales agents and inbound sales agents and nursery managers and office assistants and estimator assistants and mechanics assistants and legal assistants in the palm of your hand all the time, everything gets easier. But the most important thing is she's in the palm of everyone's hand in your company. And when they speak to one of these agents, and your people can speak to any one of these agents, they get expert advice in real time every time. They get the real data that you've connected up to this system. They get the real story. They get the truth. They get to work in a transparent environment. And as these agents work alongside them, what these agents do is they superhuman those people. And what I mean by that is very simple. Your people are learning from these agents. The agents are coaching in real time. The agents make sure that your systems are followed 10 times out of 10. And along the way, they're coaching, they're training, they're learning. You see, these agents can dispatch your Greenius course. They can go add information from any source that you've ever had and teach people in real time what good looks like, and most importantly, what they need to do next in order to drive improvements and get the outcomes that they're looking for. You start by building a vision and mission, and people start to understand your business. Well, Lana learns the same way. When you log into our AI, the first thing it's going to do is find out your vision and mission, because she can't help unless she knows where you're headed. Then she'll help you set goals, or she'll acknowledge the ones you've already got, build scorecards, incentive plans, create the SOPs, provide training aids for you to insert into your learning management systems, answer key leadership questions, and ultimately build and deploy your agents for you. Not the way we want to deploy them, the way you want to deploy them. Agents that change everything. I'll invite you to take a quick look and give it a test drive. But before that, I think we'll just give you a little live demonstration right now. I'll ask a couple of questions, give you guys a couple of examples. And again, this is in beta. You're welcome to get started. The sooner you start, the sooner you deploy agents. Now, again, Lana doesn't run on those broken reports. She's looking to run on conversations. So we're not actually building software. You don't get in there and enter all kinds of stuff. You just have conversations. So if I say, hey, Lana, what's our mission and vision? She knows. If I say, hey, Lana, what's our growth target for the year? She knows, because she knows everything about the business. And if you want to build a market leader, everyone in your company needs to know everything about the business. Otherwise, I think you're going to get crushed, because this is the future. Secrets have no more room. Now, create some quarterly SMART goals for the sales manager. Align it to our vision and mission, our core values, and focus on design build. Now, traditionally, I would have to have hours of meetings with my sales manager to get to this point. And even then, the SMART goals weren't always that good because, as I said, I don't have a lot of patience and I don't have a lot of attention span. And so I'd happen to get bored halfway through building these SMART goals, even though they're probably the most important thing that I can do in the business. But again, lots swirling around in my head, time to move on to something else. But when the goals are there and they're the best practices, when they're taking into consideration everything that your company knows to be true, everything that the other companies in LeanScaper know to be true, and everything that the large language models of the world know, it gets pretty smart. These SMART goals get to be a little bit better than the ones I'd come up with, that's for sure. Now, the next thing I'd probably say is, hey, let's create a morning rollout for the crew. And again, morning rollouts may look a certain way in your business, and that's fine. The more you talk to Lana, the more she understands it. If you've got a morning rollout SOP, you upload that, and she'll make it better. But the most important part is she's going to manage that rollout for you. And it's going to happen exactly the way you expected it to happen. And we all know how difficult it is to make these things happen. We got to train people. We got to teach them how to run meetings. We got to teach them what to do. We got to have all these checklists and all these different things to make things happen the way we expect them to happen. And then we got to figure out how to do it at scale. Could be at many different branches. But then we got to figure out, oh man, now we've got this all figured out, but we got to also do it in Spanish. Now, wait a minute. We don't need to just do it in Spanish because we've got 5 dialects of Spanish. Nothing is easy in this business, and we all know it. Now, all I have to do is ask Lana to give me this in Spanish. If it's a Mexican dialect, I'll tell her. If it's Guatemalan, I'll tell her that too. But ultimately, what I'm trying to do is create transparency for everybody in the company, not for the managers, because quite frankly, I don't even want managers. I want frontline crew managers. I don't want to call them crew leaders anymore. I want to call them frontline crew managers. I don't need middle managers. I need frontline crew managers who know the truth, who knows exactly what good look like and know how to get there. And they should be able to speak to their manager, who's an agent, in whatever language they speak, and get the same answers direct from the CEO, the COO, the CFO, or any other manager in the business in real time. And that's why we built Lana. Now, I could also ask role-based questions like, hey, I'm the operations manager, and I'd like to create an SOP for daily meetings in our company. Now, I got to create this because Lana needs to know exactly how we want to run meetings, what the agendas are going to be, what questions we want to ask, who we want to ask those questions to, because Lana's going to run the meetings. Now, it sounds like a lot, but it's not, because when your safety glasses do the talking and the listening, when your watch does the talking or listening, or your phone, it gets pretty easy to have these conversations. And so we can update the SOPs. We can train Lana how to run these meetings in seconds. And any question that any leader in your company has, you can go ahead and ask, and you'll get that answer in real time. If you're frustrated with things on the job, like maybe your paver crews aren't installing fast enough, you can ask Lana to build you an SOP to install pavers. And she'll build that SOP as fast as you ask it. And she'll build it with all of the knowledge of the entire industry, not just you, not just your managers, the entire industry. You see, I've put 35 years into building companies and systems, and I figured out a thing or two along the way. And I've put all that information in and more, much more. I don't think you're going to stump Lana. She knows what's happening. She creates documents in real time, and then she turns those into agentic workflows. When you want to order your material, you talk to your agent in the morning meeting. She'll call Home Depot for you. She'll place that order. She'll speak to Home Depot's agents, and if you don't think they've got them yet, they do. All of your major suppliers will have agents receiving orders from your agents. And if you don't have agents, then your people are still going to be trying to place orders. Agent to agent transactions are the way of the future. Whether you're booking a vacation, ordering materials for your job site, booking your truck in for service, the agents will be doing the work. We've only got a few minutes left, and I'll take a few questions.
So very interesting. As someone who owns a couple companies and I've implemented software multiple times, what's going through my head is, why are you giving this to us? And is it too good to be true? And secondarily, software companies, in my opinion, have done a great job of the upfront, but the devil's in the detail and the implementation and everything like that. And I can't tell you how many tens and thousands of dollars I've had to spend hiring consultants to actually implement the software, because it just, quite frankly, software companies do a great job in selling and presenting, and then the back end is usually lackluster. So just talk to me about that, those ideas. I mean, I'm texting my president right now. I'm like, get on this. This seems amazing, but you can understand the trepidation. You've sat in our seat before. If someone was standing in front of you with all these promises, you'd be like, what the hell's going on here?
So you answered your own question. I've walked in your shoes and I've felt that pain. And I've also been the software builder that's been trying to help people and struggling to help. I understand what you're talking about. Software is a powerful, powerful tool. But we have to remember that we can't expect our software to run our business for us. It's a tool to help us to run our business. And we have to learn how to use that tool. And I've always said this for many years while owning LMN, and I'm not attached to LMN in any way, shape, or form, but I've always said this in many, many rooms. All of the software products in this industry are valuable. The software that's best for your business is the one that you fully use. You need to learn how to use the software before it adds value. And that's a challenging thing to do. And I know that. And I think what you're going to see from all of the software companies, and I can't speak for any, but I can give you a good sense because I'm very closely connected with the CEO of LMN. And I'll say this, help is on the way. What I'm talking about here is going to happen in every software. This isn't just something we're doing. This is something that everybody's doing. Every software platform worth its weight will have agents. And those agents will help you set the software up. They'll make sure it's set up properly, and they'll speak to other agents. And there lies the answer. Why did I build this? All of those agents need to talk to a central nervous system, the watchtower. And that is what this product is. Now, why am I giving it away? Because I want to disrupt the industry. I want to change the industry. Anybody in the industry should be allowed to use this product. Will there be things that you have to pay for in the future? Of course. Nobody can run a company of this size with no revenue model. But you will have an incredible amount of power in your hands for free permanently. And rather than try to build a database that will cost you $10 to $15 million, we're just giving you one. This is an AI database. This is not a software product. What we're giving you is your own little ring. Picture it this way. Your little ring is your AI database. It knows everything about your company. Every piece of data you put in, it uses. Every conversation, it uses. Now, right around that on a second ring is the LeanScaper database, which is tens of thousands of companies, soon to be hundreds of thousands of companies, using this AI and adding more patterns. And then on the next ring outside of that is the OpenAI large language model. And so what you end up with is information being served up based on your company and your company needs, factoring in the patterns learned in the ecosystem of LeanScaper and the greater ecosystem of the large language models. For an individual company to build an AI database like this, it would be $10 to $15 million, and you get it for free the day you log in. and we're not going to take that away. Your database. All right. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.